I'm Derek Kerton, Chairman of the Telecom Council of Silicon Valley. I'm here at our annual TC3 Summit, which is our biggest meeting of the year, bringing people from all around the world to talk about telecom innovation. I think the biggest things that were topics here at TC3 and that we're still talking about as we go through today are probably not going to surprise anyone too much, but the top topic is really 5G and a lot of technologies associated with it. I won't dive into that. I think hopefully people know that 5G is kind of a mixed bag of a variety of different enhancements to our 4G networks, not just an improved modulation scheme, but also different ways of deploying a network and different topologies and things like that. The next thing we're talking about that I'll dive into a little more, there's a lot of discussions around IoT. Now, what I like about this year is that we aren't just talking about IoT as the three letters and we're done. They're actually diving down into what aspects of IoT are interesting to telecommunication carriers and networks right now. So the things that are coming forward so far this year are IoT platforms. So carriers don't just want to talk about it as a generic thing. They want to know who can provide us with a platform to manage and help us, as a B2B, sell through to our enterprise customers, platforms that can manage all these thousands of devices one might assume they might deploy. So a way of handling this scaling number of devices that are out there. Another big issue that's been talked about multiple times from startups who are presenting and from carriers saying they want it is the issue of IoT security. So this is great. We're going to have 50 billion devices out there. It's also great if you're a hacker. That's 50 billion vectors and entry points into a network that you can corrupt and cause damage, hold people's resources hostage, and disrupt community services, public services, roads, dams, you name it. So security for these devices is becoming incredibly important. And I think carriers maybe once bitten, twice shy. We've heard about things like connected cars. There were a Jeep Cherokee running on a Sprint network that was hacked due to a somewhat oversight, I would say, and lack of a focus on security. Well, I think a lot of the companies have learned from that lesson and are focused on security now, saying, let's make sure we have these things a bit more locked down before we put them out there. I hope they go for appropriate levels of security, meaning that if you're going to do something that's highly sensitive and important, and maintaining an oil field, you're going to have very tough security. If you're doing something less important, everything has some importance, but like my thermometer sensors at my homes, we're willing to say, okay, we'll be a little more flexible with those kind of things. The next thing they're looking at very seriously, and this is the carriers, is provisioning of Internet of Things. So IoT is interesting for the mobile carriers. They want to participate. But I think a lot of consumers are saying, why should I pay for you guys who charge me a lot per device when I can just connect it to Wi-Fi for free? My phone is $50 a month. My tablet is $10 additional a month. My watch is $10 a month to connect to your network. It seems like 10 is the basement for mobile carriers. And one of the reasons 10 is currently the basement, the lowest price they charge for connecting a device, is because they have somewhat old systems that consider a device a phone, and those systems cost money to bring a connection on board. And then it costs money to maintain a connection with every device. In a world where the devices are using that kind of a system, and by the way, that's 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G, there is a high cost of supporting each additional connected device. Unless carriers can drop the cost of provisioning to sub-dollar, and many would argue sub-dime prices, they're never going to be able to sell in scale into industrial IoT or even consumer IoT. Industrial IoT is looking at an oil patch and saying, okay, well, I have 1,000 wells and pumps and sensors and pipes out here. I want to put 1,000 different sensors, or maybe 2,000. If it's going to cost me $10 per sensor per month, forget about it. We'll put a Wi-Fi aggregation point in the middle and we'll hop between it all. However, if it's pennies per sensor, then I'll start looking at the cellular carrier as a possible way of aggregating those data points and putting it on their platform. And by the way, a lot of people say, nobody's going to use the carrier for these things. Well, they just might, because one advantage that the carrier has in IoT is simple provisioning. If they do it right, they can tell an industrial user, listen, you don't have to worry about Wi-Fi, you don't have to worry about range. We got blanket coverage in that area. Just drop this box, this pre-produced product, this sensor on your pipe. Bam, it's going to get connected. It's going to land on the platform that we've also provided for you through this partner, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an idea that it can make the launching of an IoT service much easier for industrial and consumer customers they might have out there. The last thing I'd say is we talked a little bit about IoT devices, but the cool thing is we don't talk a lot about that here because like devices, that's the domain of CES and maybe different industry vertical conferences. Let the oil industry talk about the specific sensors they want to use. Let CES talk about the fridges and the thermostats and the smoke alarms and things. Those are very interesting. But here at the TC3, more of a network operator-based conference and inside industry conference, we want to talk about those back-end invisible parts of the IoT ecosystem. So a long answer, but IoT is very interesting, but we were able to dive down a little bit more than just saying cool connected stuff.